August 16th, 1977. Graceland, Memphis, Tennessee. Ginger Alden climbed the stairs to the second floor, searching for the man she was supposed to marry. The bedroom was empty, the bed unmade. She knocked on the bathroom door. No answer. She knocked again. Silence. When she pushed that door open, she found Elvis Presley face down on the carpet, his pajama bottoms around his ankles. The king of rock and roll was gone. But what she saw in those final moments, the position of his body, the look frozen on his face, the book clutched in his hands, would haunt her for the rest of her life. The world thinks they know how Elvis died. They don't. Here is the story. The summer of 1977 was suffocating in Memphis. The kind of heat that makes the air shimmer above the pavement, that turns breathing into labor. Inside Graceland, the air conditioning hummed constantly, but it couldn't cool the fever that was burning through Elvis Presley's body. He was 42 years old, bloated, exhausted, a shadow of the young man who had once set the world on fire with a swivel of his hips and a curl of his lip. The man who had been beautiful, devastatingly, dangerously beautiful, was now trapped in a body that was failing him. His face was puffy from medications. His eyes, once bright with mischief and magnetism, were glassy and distant. But to the world, he was still the king. He had just wrapped up a tour, city after city, concert after concert, forcing himself onto stages when his body was screaming for rest. The fans didn't see the pain. They saw the jumpsuit, the cape, the jewelry that caught the lights. They heard the voice that could still shake the rafters. They didn't know that backstage he needed help getting dressed, that he forgot lyrics, that he slurred his words and stumbled through performances. His inner circle knew. His doctor knew, and Ginger Alden knew. Ginger was 20 years old, a former beauty queen from Memphis with soft brown eyes and a gentle voice. Elvis had chosen her. Out of all the women who threw themselves at him, he had picked her, young, innocent, malleable. He had given her a ring in January. Yeah, a massive diamond engagement ring. He told her she was going to be his wife. She believed him. But living with Elvis Presley in 1977 wasn't a fairy tale. It was a nightmare dressed in silk and gold. The mansion was a mausoleum. Dark, quiet. The staff moved like ghosts through the hallways, trained not to disturb him. Elvis kept vampire hours, sleeping all day, awake all night, pacing the rooms, watching television, popping pills from bottles that lined his nightstand like a pharmacist's inventory. Uppers to wake up, downers to sleep. Painkillers for the constant agony in his back, his joints, his gut. Ginger watched him deteriorate. She was just a girl, really, trying to love a man who was already halfway gone. On the night of August 15th, Elvis couldn't sleep. He never could. He sat in his massive bed, the television flickering in the darkness, his breathing labored and shallow. Ginger lay beside him, drifting in and out of consciousness. Around 2 a.m, Elvis told her he was going to the bathroom to read. He did that often, spending hours in there, sitting on the toilet, reading spiritual books and trying to find some kind of peace. She mumbled something. He kissed her forehead, and he walked into that bathroom. That was the last time she heard his voice. Elvis Aaron Presley was dying, and everybody knew it except him. Or maybe he knew. Maybe he felt it in his bones. The way his heart struggled to pump blood through his swollen body, the way his intestines twisted and cramped from years of abuse, the way his breath came shorter and shorter with each passing day. Maybe he knew, and he just didn't care anymore. He had been in pain for so long. Decades of grinding performances, of carrying the weight of being Elvis, of living under the pressure of expectations that would have crushed most men. His mother had died when he was 23, and part of him died with her. His marriage to Priscilla had crumbled. His daughter, Lisa Marie, was growing up without him. His career had become a parody of itself, a bloated, sweating man in a rhinestone jumpsuit performing in Vegas, a nostalgia act at 42. The pills were supposed to help. That's what Dr. George Nichopoulos told him, Dr. Nick. The man who wrote prescriptions like other people wrote grocery lists. Dilaudid, Demerol, Percodan, Quaaludes, Placidil, Valmid, Tuinol, Amatol. The names rolled off the tongue like a demonic incantation. Elvis trusted him. Why wouldn't? Dr. Nick was always there, always ready with another bottle, another injection, another promise that this would make him feel better. But it didn't make him feel better. It made him numb, and numbness for Elvis was the closest thing to peace he could find. In the months leading up to August 1977, The warning signs were everywhere. He fell asleep on stage. He forgot lyrics to songs he had sung 10,000 times. He gained weight at an alarming rate, his face swelling until he was barely recognizable. His speech became slurred. His temper became erratic. He would rage at his bodyguards over nothing, then weep like a child. Ginger saw it all. She was there in the middle of the night when he woke up gasping, clutching his chest, convinced he was having a heart attack. She was there when he stumbled out of bed and collapsed, his legs giving out beneath him. She was there when he looked at her with those sad, vacant eyes and asked her if she really loved him. Of course she loved him. How could she not? How could she not? Beneath the pills and the paranoia and the pain, there was still a man in there. A man who was tender with her, who talked about the future, who wanted to believe he could be normal. But normal was a fantasy, and fantasies don't survive in the real world. Quick question. Have you ever watched someone you love destroy themselves, knowing there's nothing you can do to stop it? Let us know in the comments. On August 15th, Elvis was scheduled for a late-night flight to Portland. Another tour, another string of concerts. His body was screaming at him to stop, but the machine didn't stop. The contracts were signed. The tickets were sold. The king had to perform. But first he had to sleep, or try to. He took his pills. The usual cocktail. Enough sedatives to knock out a horse. But sleep wouldn't come. It never did. His mind raced. His body ached. He sat in that enormous bed flipping through channels, trying to distract himself from the prison of his own flesh. Ginger drifted off beside him. She was exhausted. Living with Elvis was like living in a state of constant emergency. You never knew when the next crisis would hit. Around 2 in the morning, Elvis swung his legs out of bed. He was wearing his black silk pajamas. He grabbed a book from the nightstand, a book about the Shroud of Turin, about death and resurrection, about mysteries beyond this world. He told Ginger he was going to the bathroom. She barely heard him. She was already half asleep. He walked across the bedroom, through the doorway, into the bathroom. He closed the door behind him, and the clock started ticking on the final hours of Elvis Presley's life. The bathroom at Graceland was massive, black marble, gold fixtures, a throne fit for a king, but on that morning it became a tomb. Elvis sat down with his book. His breathing was labored. His chest felt tight. His vision was blurring, but he had felt this way before. This was normal now. This was just another night. He tried to read. The words swam on the page. His head felt heavy. His heart was pounding irregularly, skipping beats, fluttering in his chest like a trapped bird. He set the book down on the floor beside him. Something was wrong. More wrong than usual. He tried to stand. His legs wouldn't respond. His body was shutting down, organ by organ, system by system. His heart, exhausted from years of abuse, enlarged and damaged, was giving up. His colon, twisted and impacted from chronic constipation and laxative abuse, was causing agony in his abdomen. His lungs were struggling to pull in oxygen. He pitched forward. His face hit the carpet. His arms were pinned beneath him. The book lay open beside his head, and there, face down on the floor of his bathroom, Elvis Presley died. Alone. In the other room, Ginger slept. The hours passed. 2 hours, 3, 4. The sun began to rise over Memphis, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The staff at Graceland began to stir, but the second floor remained silent. Around 1:30 in the afternoon, Ginger woke up. The bed beside her was empty. That wasn't unusual. Elvis often spent hours in the bathroom. But something felt off. The air felt wrong. The silence felt wrong. She called his name. No answer. She climbed out of bed, her heart beginning to race. She walked across the bedroom. She knocked on the bathroom door. Elvis? Nothing. She knocked again, harder this time. Elvis, are you okay? Ha, ha. Silence. She tried the door handle. It wasn't locked. She pushed it open. And there he was, face down on the carpet, his pajama bottoms pulled down around his knees, his arms trapped beneath his body. His face turned to the side, discolored, grotesque, his tongue protruding slightly from his lips. Ooh! From his lips, Ginger screamed. A primal animal sound that tore from her throat and echoed through the mansion. She ran to him. She tried to turn him over, but he was so heavy, dead weight, and she was just a small girl. She screamed his name. She shook him. His skin was cold. Stiff. She ran out of the bathroom, screaming for help. Her voice shattered the silence of Graceland like glass. Somebody help! Something's wrong with Elvis. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager, came running. Al Strada, another member of the Memphis Mafia, was right behind him. They burst into the bathroom and saw what Ginger had seen. Elvis, the king, face down on the floor. Joe dropped to his knees and tried to turn him over. It took both men to roll his body onto his back. His face was purple. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. His mouth hung slack. Joe started CPR, pumping his chest, breathing into his mouth, begging him to come back. "Come on, Elvis. Come on, boss. Stay with me." But Elvis was gone. He had been gone for hours. Al called for an ambulance. Ginger stood in the doorway, her hands over her mouth, her body shaking with sobs. She couldn't look away. She couldn't process what she was seeing. This was the man she was supposed to marry. The man who had promised her a future. And now he was lying on the floor, his body bloated and lifeless, his face twisted in a mask of agony. The paramedics arrived. They loaded Elvis onto a stretcher. They tried to revive him in the ambulance, shocking his heart, pumping his chest. But it was too late. It had been too late for a long time. At 3:30 p.m., Elvis Presley was pronounced dead at Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis. The king was gone. But the nightmare was just beginning for Ginger Alden. The world exploded. Within hours, the news was everywhere. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was dead at 42. Fans flooded the streets outside Graceland, weeping, wailing, unable to believe that the man who had seemed immortal was gone. But behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding. A story of secrets and lies and desperate attempts to control the narrative. The official cause of death was cardiac arrhythmia, a heart attack. Simple, clean, tragic but understandable. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was ugly. The truth was that Elvis Presley had died from polypharmacy, a toxic combination of prescription drugs that had stopped his heart and shut down his body. The autopsy revealed 14 different drugs in his system: codeine, morphine, Quaaludes, Valium. The list went on and on. But that truth was buried. Literally, the autopsy report was sealed. The Presley family didn't want the world to know that Elvis had died like an addict, face down on a bathroom floor, his pants around his ankles. And Ginger Alden? She became a ghost. The family pushed her aside. She wasn't allowed to ride in the funeral procession. She wasn't acknowledged as his fiancée. She was erased from the narrative, treated like an outsider, a gold digger who had been there at the wrong time. But Ginger carried something the family couldn't erase. She carried the memory of what she saw. For years, she remained silent. She honored Elvis's memory, even as the world forgot about her. But the nightmares never stopped. She would wake up in the middle of the night, seeing his face on that carpet, purple, swollen, lifeless. She would see his eyes open and empty, staring at nothing. She had been 20 years old. Just a girl. And she had found the love of her life dead on a bathroom floor. In 2014, Ginger finally broke her silence. She wrote a book, Elvis and Ginger, and told her side of the story. She described that morning in excruciating detail. She talked about the guilt she carried for falling asleep, for not checking on him sooner. She talked about the way the Presley family treated her, the way they made her feel like she was nothing. And she revealed something that few people knew. In those final weeks, Elvis had been talking about death constantly. He was obsessed with it. He read books about the afterlife. He talked about wanting to be free from his body, from the pain, from the burden of being Elvis Presley. On some level, she believed he had given up. He had chosen to let go. The revelation shook the Elvis community. For decades, the official story had been that Elvis died unexpectedly, that it was a sudden tragedy. But Ginger's account painted a different picture, a picture of a man who was slowly, deliberately killing himself, and everyone around him was too afraid or too complicit to stop it. Dr. Nick was eventually brought up on charges for overprescribing medications, but he was acquitted. The machine protected itself, and Ginger, she lived the rest of her life carrying the weight of what she saw. The image of Elvis, broken and alone, would never leave her. Elvis Presley was a man who gave everything to the world. His voice, his body, his soul. He changed music forever. He broke down barriers. He made teenage girls scream and parents clutch their pearls. He was rebellion and sex and raw, electric power. But the world took everything from him in return. It took his privacy, his peace, his health. It turned him into a commodity, a machine that had to keep producing, keep performing, keep being Elvis, even when there was nothing left. And in the end, it killed him. Ginger Alden was the last person to see him alive. She was the first person to find him dead, and she has spent the last 47 years living with that image burned into her mind. She didn't ask for that burden. She was just a young woman who fell in love with a legend. But legends don't get happy endings, and the people who love them pay the price. The world remembers Elvis as the king, the jumpsuit, the smile, the voice that could make you believe in magic. But Ginger remembers him as a man, broken, suffering, human. And maybe that's the real tragedy, that we built him up so high, we forgot he could fall. So here's the question. If you knew someone was destroying themselves, would you have the courage to tell the truth, even if the world didn't want to hear it? And unfortunately, they don't make men like Elvis Presley anymore.